Disclaimer, I do not condone the actions of any of the people mentioned in the video, nor do I glamorize or romanticize these people and their actions. This video is just here for education and discussion. Hello everyone, my name is Steph from above, and today's video will be a bit different. It's still true crime related, but today we aren't talking about one particular perp, but like perps in general, from the past and from today. I mean, you saw the title, but I need to introduce this video somehow, okay? I'll be using 8 older perps and 8 newer perps as examples. So like, I provide enough case discussion for like 4 years of content, so huzzah, yay! I want to talk about how they changed and specifically about these things. Age, guts or courage, lack of skill, patience and planning, motive or lack thereof, and copycats. And if being one is avoidable. And I would like to start with the most easiest thing to discuss, that being age. For context, I won't always use all perps in every category, since sometimes a singular perp won't fit in every category. I think I'll start with the most easiest thing to objectively say is true, which is the age aspect. What I want to talk about specifically is perpetrators getting younger and younger. For example, the most popular shooters from back then, in quotation marks, were in their late teens or early 20s, so basically adults or almost adults. So for example, Eric Harris, 18, Dylan Klebold, 18, Adam Lancer, 20, Pekka Eric Ovenen, 18, Dylan Roof, 21, Vladislav Rostakov, 18. These are just a few examples, and of course there are outliers like Kip Kinkle being 15 and Brenda and Spencer being 16, but overall I'd say there are more older perps than now. I mean, let's look at it. With the newer ones, you have Samantha Rupno, 15, failed Ukrainian stabber, or Juzu as he called himself on Tumblr, 15, failed Chihuahua X-Killer, I don't know her real name, the ones who saw her on Tumblr know who I mean though, 12, Willem / Shongao Shooter, 15, Isabel Valdez, 15, Lois Lippert, 14. For this two, there are outliers like Achleitner, who was 21, and Solomon Henderson, who was 17, so almost an adult.
He's a bum!
But still, these are just a few, and I'm sure if you've been on true crime Tumblr, you've seen your fair share of like South American tweens in natural selection shirts getting feted or actually going through with it. The age aspect is important in a lot of ways. Like, for example, what the fuck is happening in our society to make such young kids try and commit such horrible things? But their age also plays into all the other traits I mentioned before. Let's take guts / courage for example. So, of course the question pops up, what do I mean by guts / courage? I'm talking about most newer and younger shooters not having the guts to kill as many people as older perpetrators. Which is a good thing obviously, but it is still worth discussing. I mean, we can compare again. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold killed 13 people and 23 injured, and it would have been probably more had the original plan succeeded with the bombing and or if Dylan wore his glasses during the massacre. Adam Lancer, 28 kills, 2 injured, Pekka Eric Ovenen, 8 kills, 13 injured, Dylan Roof, 9 kills, 1 injured, Vladislav Rostakov, 21 kills, 73 injured, Kip Kinkle, 4 kills, 25 injured, would have been more if he hadn't been stopped. Brenda and Spencer, 2 kills and 9 injured. For the new category we got Samantha Rupno, 2 kills, 6 injured, the massacre didn't even last 10 minutes though, so she most likely killed herself after the reality of killing people set in. Solomon Henderson, 1 kill, 1 injured, killing himself pretty much immediately, probably for the same reason Samantha did. Willem / Shongao Shooter, 2 injured, ran away, probably too scared that his gun jammed. Failed Chihuahua X-Killer, 1 injured, gave up / got apprehended immediately. Failed Ukrainian stabber / Juzu, 0 killed, 0 injured. He got reported and was stopped by a school security guard who told him to sit down and wait for the cops. Instead of stabbing the security guard or running inside the school, he sat his ass down and waited like a good boy.
Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready? Ready!
I think age plays a huge role into the lack of guts. For one, I think the necessary life experience lacks to build up the true hatred, apathy and whatever else the older perpetrators might have that the new ones lack. I don't think if you're 13 for example, you can be so tired by life and people that you truly decide you can just kill people and not care, or even just not care for consequences in general. I mean, While also people like Samantha Rupner and Solomon Henderson killed themselves pretty much immediately after the massacre just started. Because, to put it bluntly, they weren't about that. They could have never really pulled it off because they lack what really makes killers like Eric Harrison and Klebold. Same goes for Willem, Juzu, and that Chihuahua Axe girl. They all pretty much gave up immediately, simply letting themselves get arrested or not really resisting when push came to shove. Another thing you really notice with these newer perpetrators is their lack of skill, patience, and planning. Like, look at how long Harris and Klebold planned Columbine for, or how well the VTech massacre was planned. Even people like Dylan Roof at least did the smallest amount of planning. But the new ones don't have the patience to plan and train for their shooting, which just goes to show how stupid and naive they are for their age, you know? They have this expectation of it all going like a movie when it really won't, because, well, it's not a movie, obviously. Like, let's take Columbine for an example. So a lot of the other perps on the both lists took inspiration from it. It's basically the blueprint. Columbine was planned for a year, more or less. At least the idea of it existed for that long. And Harrison and Dylan Klebold both prepared for it for a long time. Learned how to build bombs, trained with their guns, planned where to place the bomb so the school would crumble in on itself. So obviously there was a lot of planning, and luckily it didn't go exactly as planned. But it still went pretty well for them, considering basically everyone knows who they are and they are the blueprint for all these kids. Or let's look at Lanza. He didn't plan crazy or anything, but I think he chose an elementary school for a very good reason. I mean, for example, that there's the least resistance from victims. As well as it being his old elementary school, he would know the layout and everything. Plus he had lots of experience with guns because he went to a shooting range lots of times with his mother, so lack of knowledge on how to handle guns wasn't an issue either. Or Vladislav Roslyakov. I mean, he copied Columbine for a lot of it, but he had enough experience with his gun to actually make it work and not just storm in like a retard and think he's the big man with the big gun and it will simply work because he's got a big gun. And these newer shooters have that exact mindset. The I have a gun, therefore everything will work and not much more mindset. Samantha Rupner, for example, did train with her gun but had no real plan to do anything besides walk in and kill. Not like a plan would have helped her anyway, considering she wasn't really into killing anyways, as I think. Or Solomon Henderson, who stole his gun from his parents, barely, if ever, trained with it, and just started shooting and hoping for the best. Or that fucking Willem Schongau, whoever the fuck, Brad, with his 3D printed gun. Or that other German fucking bald egghead with his 3D printed gun that immediately jammed, but he didn't even have a plan. He admitted himself in his shitty manifesto that he would simply storm in and hope for the best, and had this complete made up movie idea that he would steal a car and then force the driver to drive him somewhere like a fucking retard. Fuck. None of the people on the new list planned this at all or had any experience at all. Achleitner being an exception, I guess, but how much of his shooting was planned is hard to say. Let's move on to the next point because this one is getting very stale. Motive, yes, motive. I think that has a lot to do with their age as well, or general immaturity.
Get fucked.
Obviously, someone who's younger will have a more stupid motive than someone who's older, more experienced and more set in their ideologies and beliefs and whatever. I mean, again, we can compare the motives between the older perps and the newer perps. With the older ones we have Eric Harrison and Klebold, revenge for bullying, which is very viable. With infamy seemingly, or most likely, being a cool thing that they knew would come along with it, or cool for them. Adam Lanza, it's hard to say, but in my opinion it was most likely an attack at the concept of schools as an institution. If you watched his Cultural Philistine videos, then you know that he hates society and culture, and schools would be part of that. Along with it being a very elaborate suicide, since he was a very suicidal person. Again, if you watched his Cultural Philistine videos, you would know. And putting himself in a situation where death is better than the alternative prison, therefore he would be forced to commit suicide. Pekka Erik Ovenen, revenge, misanthropy and rebellion against the system. Dylan Roof, racism and hopes to start a race war. It's a stupid motive, but at least it's something except wanting infamy. Vladislav Roslyakov, revenge for bullying from classmates, which is also verifiable, and against the school in general. And Kip Kincold's motive being schizophrenia, I guess. And with the newer shooters, we have Rupno being bullied, which none of the classmates could verify her being bullied. like more saying that she isolated herself from other people. Solomon Henderson, racism maybe, as in he was racist towards other black people. I mean, he's a whole ass fucking bum and dumbass though. Like, he's a black Nazi. Like, what the fuck? Fucking retard. Achleitner, revenge against the school for not protecting him against bullying, which is the outlier here, pretty much, because he has a motive that is very viable and which isn't wanting infamy or pretending to have been bullied or shit like that. Willem / Shongao shooter being bullied, but he obviously behaved in ways that would warrant bullying. Like, if you read his manifesto, you can tell by how he describes interacting with his family and others that he probably did deserve it, not gonna lie. And also his motive being the edgy accelerationism bullshit. Juzu, infamy, Chihuahua X, stabber, killer, whatever. First for infamy, Isabel Valdez and Lois Lippert, reviving Adam Lanza plus first for infamy. What I noticed is that a lot of the newer shooters didn't really have it that bad seemingly, as I mentioned before. It really seems like the harm was done by themselves, to themselves, either because they are retarded, like Willem, antagonizing people and being surprised they don't like you, or simply being an introverted teen and interpreting that as being bullied. Like, you can look at the newer ones' behavior and understand why they got bullied low-key, or at least disliked and avoided. Or, like I said, they themselves isolated themselves and complain about it later, blaming it on others. Meanwhile, older ones did verifiably get bullied and had like a bunch of fucking mental problems and shit, and even if not, had motives beside being bullied and having mental problems. Like, if I were to take more perps from outside the list, I'd have way more older ones on the old list and younger ones on the new list. Firstly, if that makes sense, if you get what I mean. But second, the newer ones' motives would all amount to some vague misanthropy, teenage angst, and just this fucking huge, obvious, fucking red hot thirst for attention. They're just fucking begging for it. Please make an edit of me because I'm a leggy killer. Please make fanfics of me because I'm such a bad boy who killed people. Please make hot fan art of me even though I'm a greasy little dweeb. God, just you fucking pathetic. Jesus. Right. Moving on to a last point, which will sort of serve as the outro, I guess. Our last and shortest point will be the topic of copycats and if being one is avoidable. And to get to the point, I would say no. Like, simply for these people, for their plans to work, they will have to look at others and see where they failed and see where they succeeded, and will inevitably copy things. Especially these younger killers will copy a bunch of shit. They see these older killers like Eric Harris, for example, and Don Klebold as heroes the same way a small child would see Superman or Spider-Man. They blindly idolize these killers without thinking about anything and will copy a bunch of shit like weapon choice, clothing, attitude, etc. and often exaggerate the characteristics of the older perps they idolize. So, one-to-one strap copycats got way worse in recent years, I'd say. I mean, Pekka Avonen was a Columbine cat, so was Vladislav. Even they were more original than the newer ones. And with that, I would already end the video. I know it's a bit different from my usual videos, but this topic has been on my mind for a very long time. And I just didn't know how to go about it, I guess. So if you enjoyed the video, then please share it with your friends, or like at least leave a like or something nice. If you have any thoughts about this topic, please leave a comment, and you know, I read all my comments, so I will try to give my thoughts to your thoughts, if that makes sense. I don't think there's much more to say, so I'm Def from above, and I'll see you in the next video.